Hi everybody, I am Teresa and this is week 13 and the second to last day of school, and I read you chapter 2 of Amelia and Bedelia, Shapes Up on Friday, so today I will read you chapter 3. Chapter 3, Little Pictures Have Red Ears. Amelia and Bedelia tried her best to go to sleep, but it was way too early for that. Plus, she kept hearing her mother and father saying her name again and again. Was something wrong? Was she in trouble? Amelia, Bedelia, 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 Amelia, Bedelia. Amelia, Bedelia. What were they talking about her? Why were they talking about her? Amelia and Bedelia slipped out of bed and tiptoed down the hall to the top of the stairs. She poked her face between the spindles on the stairway. Now she could hear everything her parents were saying. Amelia and Bedelia seems fine to me, said her mother, but maybe she's having coordination problems. What kind of problems? Amelia Bedelia looked down at her pajamas. The bottoms matched the top perfectly. All her outfits were coordinated. She loved matching colors and patterns, and she could get stronger, said her father. You know, get in shape. Amelia Bedelia looked at herself again. This was her shape, the only shape she had. She wasn't a jellyfish or an octopus or a cat. She was a girl. Maybe she's just not that interested in sports, said her mother. Amelia Bedelia almost shouted, Bingo! She liked sports, but she wasn't crazy about them. Why should she be? In her last try at sports, she had come in second to a crummy water fountain. And now her own parents thought she should get coordinated into a new shape. One thing is certain, said her mother. The corners of her mouth are droopy. That means our cupcake is unhappy. Unhappy? Exclaimed her father. Shh, said her mother. She'll hear you. Little pictures have big ears. Amelia Bedelia was puzzled. She had heard that right. Did her mom want Amelia Bedelia to be a pitcher and play baseball, or was she saying that Amelia Bedelia had big ears? She has lots of friends, said her father in a quieter voice. All the kids love her. True, said her mother, but if you were always the last one picked for a team, you might not love yourself. Her parents were talking softly now, so Amelia Bedelia had to strain to her to hear them. She pressed her face between the spindles as far as she could and tilted her ear toward the kitchen. She caught words like self-confident and sports camp. Shh. Then she heard a pop. Pop, 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 pop. Her mom was making popcorn for just the two of them. The wonderful aroma of freshly popped popcorn wafted upstairs. What torture! Inhaling deeply, Amelia Bedelia pushed her face against the spindles until, pop! Her entire head went through. Amelia Bedelia yanked her head back. Yow! Her ears were caught. Her mom was right again. Her ears were too big for her own good. She could hear her parents clearly now, but she couldn't pay attention. She was too busy twisting and turning her head and trying to pull it out from between the spindles. No luck. She heard her name and something about golf. Then Amelia Bedelia heard her father say, "I've got an early tea time. Let's hit the snack." Before Amelia Bedelia could wonder why her father was going to a tea party and punching a bag, her parents began turning off lights. Yipes, she thought. They're coming upstairs. Her parents would see her head protruding from the stairway like that stuffed deer head decorating the family room in her friend Roger's house. Pop, 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 pow! Amelia Bedelia was so desperate that she did a really gross thing. She spit on her fingers, then rubbed the spit behind her ears to make them slick. Then she steadily pulled her head back until, pop, freedom! As the lights went out in the kitchen, Amelia Bedelia scrambled down the hall and jumped back into bed. She dove under the covers and shut her eyes. Seconds later, her parents tiptoed into her room and stood right next to her bed. Her dad leaned down to kiss her goodnight, and his hand brushed her ear. Then he felt her other ear. "Hey, honey," he whispered. Amelia Bedelia's ears feel hot. Said her mother as she pushed the hair off Amelia Bedelia's forehead, then gently touched her ears. "No fever, but we're talking about her, so now her ears are burning." Amelia Bedelia didn't say a word. After her parents left quietly, she and her fiery ears kept pretending to be asleep until at last she was. Bye everybody, read you chapter 4 tomorrow.